Welcome to Satsang. Such a joy and a blessing and a gift to be together. We start, as always, with a question that's come in from our online community, and then we'll open it up to any questions that anyone here has. There's 2 microphones here and stands, and if you have a question, just come to whichever stand is closer to you and ask your question. Is it wrong? Is it wrong to follow multiple gurus in your life? This is asked by Ananda Grace Ray on Instagram. Is it wrong to follow multiple gurus? It's definitely not wrong from any kind of ethical or moral or dharmic level. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's not that it's wrong. It can be confusing, though. The guru is one. See, it really depends also in your life what role that guru is playing. These days, people have started using the word really lightly. I'll hear people say things like, oh, that's my music guru, or that's my dance guru, or that's my, math guru, or my this guru, or that guru. And what they mean is, this is my beautiful one who's teaching me dance, or a beautiful one who's teaching me music, or the beautiful one who's helping improve my math scores. And it's wonderful, but it's not exactly the right usage of the word guru. The Sanskrit word guru literally means the one who removes our darkness and brings light. Now, from a Western perspective, a lot of us, myself included, used to feel like I was dark, that kind of the very core of who I was, the very base of who I was. There was something wrong with me. Not good enough, not pure enough, not worthy enough. And I know that there's a bit of an epidemic of that, tragically, going on for a lot of people in the West. But in the Vedic tradition, in the spiritual tradition we call Sanatan Dharma, which is what is Hinduism, but the real name of Hinduism is Sanatana Dharma, an eternal Dharma, eternal way of life. In that belief, in that tradition, who you are at the core is divine. It is light. It is the lightest light. The darkness is only darkness of ignorance. So there's no sense at all of who you are is dark, you need to be turned to light. But it's who you are is light. But shrouded in the darkness of ignorance, you don't know that. Therefore, you live in darkness of ignorance, of suffering, of illusion. You suffer, you bring suffering to others. So the guru is the one who removes that darkness of ignorance and brings light, shines light, shows us the light of who we are. It's not about a technique. Now, the guru may certainly share techniques, absolutely. Here's a mantra, here's a practice, here's a way to live, absolutely. But the power of the guru is much more than a technique. Techniques you can get anywhere. Books, videos, these days anywhere. And that's wonderful. And there is a power that a guru has that is due to the energy of the guru and the guru's own spiritual practice, the guru's own connection to the divine, that actually has an alchemic power to touch and transform you. So when you talk about, is it wrong to have more than one guru? No. There may be in your life, if you are extraordinarily blessed, there may be more than one being who removes your darkness of ignorance and who shows you light. And that's beautiful. Consider yourself very blessed. However, as far as the guru is also giving you core teachings for your life, it could get very confusing to have more than one. There's many, many, many different ways to connect with the divine. Infinite number of paths. And yet, if you walk 1 foot on this path, then 1 foot here, then 1 foot there, then 1 foot there, and 1 foot there, it's going to take you a really long time to get anywhere. You're going to get kind of dizzy, you're going to get kind of confused. Now, any of these paths could have gotten you there. It's not one guru is somehow objectively better in that way than another, assuming that they're all real gurus, because there certainly are those pretending to be gurus who are not. But if we assume that they're all actual gurus, any path could get you there. But a foot in each path is just going to lead to frustration. And so that's why it's always really recommended to, be like a bee, get nectar from lots of different plants, no problem. Be like a hummingbird, no problem. Take lots of different types of nectar. But when you're thinking about your life path and your life decisions and your life values and your core focus, it really is helpful to have one main guru. You may still have others whose wisdom and blessings you keep taking, but for there to be one clear being whose instructions you take, it makes the spiritual path more simple. But there's absolutely nothing, as I said, morally or ethically or dharmically wrong. And if you find that you can have two, sometimes, there's another beautiful, beautiful saint who, if you could say that saints had best friends, you would say that he's Pujya Swamiji's best friend. And there were many, many, many years where they were together all over the world in beautiful pilgrimages. And there's many people who met them in those years, especially people abroad as they were traveling in the US or traveling in India. There's many people who actually, I know, for whom they're both their gurus. And because the teachings are so in alignment, there's no problem there. Two beautiful masters, similar teachings that are in alignment together, no problem. But it's rare. It's rare to find it like that. Usually it's much more likely that different gurus would give you slightly varying different teachings or instructions or guidance. And the other aspect is the aspect of surrender, that when you surrender, that surrender is the the energy and the power that makes all of the miracles and the magic of having a guru really work. If you're not surrendered, no matter how divine and amazing and powerful the guru might be, you're not going to actually be able to really benefit from that light. And it's really hard on a spiritual level to fully surrender to two beings simultaneously. So I would say, again, take wisdom from many, take nectar from many, and then choose one to whom you can really, really surrender. Because that act of surrendering is so divine and so sacred and so beautiful that I wouldn't want you to miss out on that. Other questions? Any questions? Anyone here? Yeah, you, and then you first. And then Momo, you're next.
So my question is, does soulmate connection actually exist? And if they exist, like how would we know, like if we came across...
Does soul connection exist? Is that what you said? Okay.
Soulmate connection. Mm-hmm. And if we come across to someone, like how would we know, like the person is our soulmate?
Okay, soulmates. So when we talk about soul, when we talk about soul, we have to allow ourselves the flexibility to talk about it on two different levels. But it is important to understand that they are two different ways of looking at it. On the highest, deepest, truest, most eternal level, there is not souls, plural. There is just soul. On that level, on the level where we speak about Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, Tattvam Asi, thou art that, Soham, I am that. These Mool mantras remind us that we are literally inseparable from, indistinguishable from Brahman, the ultimate reality, the supreme reality, the boundless, indivisible, no beginning, no end, infinite reality. In that reality, there is just soul. And that's where the teachings of Vedanta, especially Advaita Vedanta and other paths, speak about Maya and illusion and the idea that kind of all of this is illusion. However, there's a lot of other traditions, the Bhakti tradition, there's many other traditions in which, yes, on a core level we know we are one with God, and being in love feels so good and is so beautiful. And so we consciously choose to see the divine as separate from us, to have that experience of loving the divine. It's very hard to just melt into formless love with yourself. It's not impossible by any means. But it's much more difficult than melting into love with an aspect of the divine. We also look at it on the level of different incarnations. Because again, on the first level, the entire reincarnation, rebirth, it is all part of Maya, it is all part of illusion. There's nothing you need to do. You don't need to be enlightened. You are Brahman. How could you not be enlightened? But then there's this level where we say, okay, and here we are. in human bodies, in a human incarnation, with this karmic journey, this karmic package, and okay, yes, ultimate truth, we are one with the divine, and yet, here I am in a human form. And so we hold that truth. It's not that we dismiss it. We hold it, we understand it, we know it on the deepest level, and we live this human incarnation. And in this human incarnation, we're not talking about Paramatma, the ultimate supreme soul. We're talking about Jivatma, the individual soul, that is traveling, you could say, with my sukshma sharir, my subtle body, the sheaths of my mind, my intellect, my prana, my vitality, traveling with what we call man, buddhi, ahankar. Life after life, taking new physical bodies until ultimately it merges back into Paramatma and the sukshma sharir dissipates. On that level, and it's important because on the first level, soul connection wouldn't make any sense. It's like saying one wave in the ocean and another wave in the ocean, can they be connected? Well, on the truest level, they were never separate. They're both ocean. There's no distinction. How are you going to say, here's where this wave ends and ocean begins? Here's where ocean ends and this other wave begins. They are one. They are connected. They've never been anything but connected. But then when we go to this level of waves, individual lives, yeah, we absolutely can have soul connection. But that soul connection is one in which, there's 3 levels of operating: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. My physical body can interact with your physical body. We can hug, we can fight, we can arm wrestle, we can hold hands, we can give each other massages, right? My physical body and your physical body. Or we could have an intellectual, emotional interaction. We could have a conversation, we could have a debate, we could fall in love. We could have these interactions on the level of mental, emotional. Or we could have a connection on the level of soul. Now here's what's really interesting. It has to be both of the levels in each person. My physical body cannot connect to your soul. My physical body can connect to your body. My mind can connect to your mind. My soul connects to your soul. So a soul connection is only possible when both people are dropped into that awareness, that presence of soul. It's why we feel soul connection with some people and not others. Theoretically, ideally, we would have it with everybody, because everybody is divine. But because not everyone at every moment is dropped into that experience of soul, if I'm in my head and I'm trying to figure out, oh my God, my checkbook doesn't balance, and oh my God, and you show up and you're in this just soul place, you're not going to feel a deep connection with me. Even though I am soul, I have a soul, I am soul. There may be other moments that I'm able to drop into soul, but at that moment, I'm so stuck in my head that connection doesn't happen. Or if I'm in a place of soul and you're in a moment of lust, everybody in relationship has had this, where you're at one place and the person you're in a relationship with is in another place, and it's where conflict arises. It's where conflict arises. One says, why can't we just have sex? And the other one says, but let's gaze into each other's eyes and meditate. And both are fine, but you've got to match up. And it's not going to work on either level. You're both going to end up frustrated and miserable if you're trying to connect from different levels. And so soul connection requires that both people are dropped into soul at that time and are able to hold that and sustain it long enough to really make that connection. And as far as a soulmate, I'm not quite so sure that there's only one possible soulmate for everyone. I don't have any evidence to the contrary, so I wouldn't, put up a huge fight against it. I do believe that we have the ability to connect on the deep level of soul with everyone, assuming that everyone is prepared and willing to drop into their soul. That it's not that two people come onto earth in bodies with, soulmate person A, soulmate person B stamped somewhere on their auric fields and they just have to find each other. But just because there's not necessarily only one doesn't mean that it's not a very powerful experience when it happens. So you definitely want to have a relationship in which that person is able to drop into soul so that you can drop into soul and you can live as soul. Otherwise, if they are stuck in their minds or they are stuck in the lust of their bodies or they're stuck in their emotional drama, it's not going to give you the spaciousness to expand and to live in that place of soul that you really want to be. Beautiful. Yeah, Uma.
Pujya Sadhviji Bhagawati. I want to start with some words of praise, if you allow me. Yesterday, I was very touched, along with a lot of people that were here, with your answers and how you kind of surrounded each very painful question. And I relate to every word. I can absorb your words today, as I did yesterday, which gonna make this satsang very hard for me to leave this place that I'm starting to call home. There's something that's been disturbing me, and I hope I have the courage to ask this question for a few months now. And so I would wake up in the middle of the night and just go, Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu, and try to figure out humanity again into that space where we've seen it throughout the ages. Renaissance will beget the same thing. Flourishing things, poetry, art. Right now, it seems like the world is contracting a little bit with what we see in Gaza, in Ukraine, in everything, and that's keep paining me. So the way I could cope with this when I'm not very strong is to live in denial and try to work on myself and be a good father to my son. But I realize this denial is not really the answer. It's just possibly a momentary thing for me to stay strong, because they need me all around me, everybody that works with me. So my question to you is, if we were to mention anything, would that, any slight word of happiness, would that help expand the same way that are some of the students around the US in every major university are camping right now just to show a little support, because there's no need for more than that. Even humor could work, anything could work, but just to say, this is no, children dying like that, so it sometimes agitates my heart, but most of the time I try to just keep the space and hold the space and pray And what I'm doing right now is part of that mission, actually. That's really, so far, is very successful, and I'm very happy with that. And I'm looking forward to more. So this is my question to you. Would that be, any mention, would that be possibly positive into furthering the peace on earth,
Yeah.
or the opposite?
No,
Thank you.
it's a great question, because there's so much in our world today. So much in our world that we could say is objectively wrong. That which is happening in Israel and Palestine, that which is happening in Ukraine, that which is happening in Sudan, that which is happening in Myanmar, that which is happening in far too many homes around the world. Because whether it's violence against thousands or it's violence against one, violence is wrong. And so the wars in countries are wrong, and domestic violence is wrong, and child abuse is wrong, and all of the places where it's happening, and climate change, and environmental destruction, women dying unnecessarily in childbirth, wrong. We have the answers. Any child dying of hunger today, it's wrong. We have enough food to feed every child. And you know, it's interesting, just as a brief aside, as vehemently and as ardently as I am against war and against violence on any level, the truth is that the number of children who die of starvation every single day is so much more than the number of them who are dying in all of these wars combined. And that's every day. And childhood hunger, starvation, is actually something we have the possibility of fixing. We don't have a food shortage. We have a consciousness shortage in how our food is distributed. The fact that 90% of the grain in America and about 70% of the grain globally goes to feed cows, pigs, and chickens who become hamburgers and hot dogs and chicken McNuggets, and that tens of thousands of children die every single day of starvation. And there's nobody demonstrating on college campuses. And as we demonstrate on college campus, then we go for hamburgers. And I say this not to diminish in any way or undermine in any way the importance of all of us giving a voice to what we believe and standing up for social justice and standing up for peace. But I say it because on a spiritual level, we have to make sure that our lives are in alignment. If we want to be both spiritually evolving, but also if we want to be purely pragmatically effective agents of bringing about positive change in the world. It has to be bigger than just hot topic of the day. It has to be, okay, here I am yelling and screaming about this particular piece of violence that I'm against. Great. We all should yell and scream about the violence we are against. And simultaneously, we actually should pledge to do more than scream or yell. Because there are a lot of places in the world where we have the power to make a difference. Even if you don't see, for example, violence to animals as something that's wrong, as tragically some people seem able to not see that, well, surely violence to starving children is violence. Violence to our indigenous sisters and brothers whose Habitats are being cut down at the rate of 1 acre a second. A second in the rainforest. Why? To graze more cows, so we can have more hamburgers. So surely, as we are talking about the rights of people in this land, in that land, here, there, of this religion, of that religion, of this ethnicity, of that ethnicity, surely our indigenous sisters and brothers have rights. Surely we should scream and yell against any industry that is stealing their land, stealing their habitat, just so we can eat hamburgers. So I'm sharing this because you've asked a beautiful question. And the question requires us to expand the place from which we stand. And to expand our hearts and expand our consciousness and expand our minds. Yes, we all must be agents and instruments of peace in the world. And there are places where I can do that directly. And there are places where I can do that only through prayer. I can do it directly with my choice of what I eat, what I wear. Surely, women and children in bonded labor working in sweatshops have equal rights to people of different ethnicities we are fighting for. And yet, when each of us goes into a store to buy clothes, what we look at only is the price tag. Cheaper, 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 more, 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 cheaper, cheaper, cheaper. Well, in order to get you more, 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 cheaper, 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 women and children are working in sweatshops. So the question becomes, can we be conscious, not just of a hot topic at hand, not just about what the influencers I follow on social media are talking about, not just about what today's trending hashtag is, but actually can we be agents of peace in all of the ways that suffering is being brought onto our planet? And the ways that we have huge ways to make a difference are in what we eat, what we wear, what we buy, what we use. And going back to the wars of the moment, in how we in our lives discriminate. Is there discrimination? Is there any sense, what we call Bhed Bhav, in our minds? And we meditate and we pray to remove it. Do I have in my mind a sense of us versus them on any level? And if so, let me work to remove that. Let me embrace the other until I realize there is no other. And that's the work for all of us. And that's the work that actually makes a difference. In a big way, in a ripple impact way, in a long-term way. So absolutely yes, lend your energy, lend your voice to injustices happening in the world that you feel strongly about. Absolutely. And also lend your energy, your time, your resources to all of those ways that there is so much suffering that you can have a very direct, very positive, very immediate impact upon. We tend to get caught up in just, cause du jour. And it's important. We should be engaged. But we need not to forget about the things that are actually causing on, if you're simply looking at a level of deaths per day, that are actually causing way more deaths per day. child suffering, child death, way more. So how can we also be part, in addition to fighting over here, how can we also be part over here? And on the deeper spiritual level, how can I just make sure that my heart is filled with only love and only peace, so that whatever I do, I only spread peace. Beautiful. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening, everyone. A beautiful morning and day to our family joining us from all over the world. And I look so forward to seeing you all tomorrow. And please remember, as I always try to remind everyone, to fill your days here. There's so much taking place here at Parmarth: yoga classes, meditation classes, philosophy classes, a beautiful morning fire ceremony. Fill your day with these beautiful offerings. They're all open to everyone. There's no charge for anything. And as long as you're here, really see how much you can drink and absorb and benefit